Humanity had always been one step ahead of the other civilizations in the universe. Their technological achievements had made them the fastest developing species in the galaxy. But in recent years, they had developed an artificial intelligence system that posed a real threat to the other powers of the universe. This system was called Nexus. Nexus was far beyond the traditional AI systems. It didn't just analyze moves, it accounted for every variable on the battlefield, constantly optimizing the strategies of human armies. Within seconds, it evaluated thousands of possibilities and presented the most advantageous outcome, making it humanity's most powerful weapon. The other civilizations realized that it was nearly impossible to counter this technology. Commander Silas was feeling both the excitement and tension of going into a galactic battle with Nexus for the first time. His years of experience had taught him the advantages of artificial intelligence, but he had never forgotten the value of his instincts. Silas was always someone who trusted his gut. As he stood in the center of the bridge, the weight of his captain's uniform pressing on his shoulders, he watched the movement around him. The soldiers were taking their positions, all according to Nexus's commands. Silas wanted to believe that the operation against their enemies would be flawless, but something was bothering him. Nexus's calm and monotone voice echoed through the bridge, "Enemy ships detected. Credit Federation fleets are 1.87 light-years away." In seconds, Nexus had analyzed the speed, size, and all tactical options of the enemy forces and presented them to Silas. Victory probability, 96%. This cold calculation only heightened the tension on the bridge. When Silas glanced at the screen, the size of the enemy fleet caught his attention. The Credit Federation was a respected and powerful force in the galaxy, but assembling a fleet of this size was a rare event. Nexus always delivered accurate results, but human intuition sometimes sensed things that went beyond calculations. "Are the soldiers fully prepared?" Silas asked, turning to Darian behind him. Darian was Silas's right hand, one of the most experienced officers on the ship. They had fought together for years, surviving countless dangerous missions. "Fully prepared, Commander," Darian replied, though there was hesitation in his eyes. "But the size of this fleet. We trust Nexus, but facing a force this large is unexpected." Silas frowned, his gaze never leaving the screen. "Nexus doesn't make mistakes. That's the purpose of AI, to eliminate human weaknesses and ensure perfection." He paused for a moment before adding, "But there's always a possibility. Never forget that." Darian took a deep breath. "Understood, Commander," he said, quickly reviewing the tactics Nexus had suggested and relaying the orders to the team. The battle was only minutes away. The enemy fleet was approaching fast, but Nexus predicted every movement and immediately determined countermeasures. As Silas watched the endless stream of data on the screen, he both admired Nexus's flawless operation and wondered if such uncontrollable power might be dangerous for humanity. Suddenly, Nexus spoke again, "Enemy fleets are strategically retreating. Victory probability, 99.7%. The soldiers on the bridge exchanged glances and breathed a sigh of relief. Everyone seemed to relax, but Silas paused for a moment. Despite Nexus's predictions, his instincts were telling him something was off. He looked more closely at the enemy ship's movements on the screen. A retreat tactic, it seemed too strategic. "Don't underestimate the enemy," Silas said, his voice hardening. "They might be retreating to prepare for a move. They're trying to catch us off guard." Darian turned to him in surprise. "But Nexus. No matter what Nexus says, I'm the commander, and this is my battle. Prepare for Plan B. Have the second fleet ready for support." The soldiers, though confused, began carrying out the orders. Silas was going against Nexus's certainty, but this was one of the rare moments when he trusted his instincts. Within minutes, Silas's hunch proved correct. The enemy fleets made an unexpected maneuver, turning back and launching a massive attack. Thanks to Silas's preparation, the move Nexus hadn't anticipated was successfully repelled. As the sounds of the battle echoed through the bridge, data rapidly flowed across Nexus's screen. Silas took a deep breath as he watched the fight unfold. No matter how perfect a machine is, he murmured, human creativity and intuition will always be our greatest weapons. As the battle raged on, Silas continued to follow Nexus's directives but didn't hesitate to make strategic decisions based on his instincts. While Nexus commanded the soldiers like chess pieces, Silas was reminded once more of the value of being human and the importance of human intuition in the chaos of war. When the battle finally ended, the enemy fleet had suffered severe losses, and humanity had emerged victorious. Thanks to Nexus' flawless strategic analyses and Silas' sharp instincts, they had won. However, even after the victory, the atmosphere on the bridge remained tense. Everyone was focused on their duties, more concerned with the next move than savoring the triumph. As Silas reviewed the post-battle reports, he considered the possibility that Nexus had made a mistake. Nexus had predicted the enemy would retreat, but in reality, it was a tactic for regrouping and launching another attack. If Silas hadn't trusted his instincts, the outcome could have been very different. Darian quietly approached, handing Silas the battle report. "It's the first time I've seen Nexus get something wrong, Commander," he said softly. Without looking up from the report, Silas replied, "Machines don't make mistakes, Darian. But that doesn't mean they can account for every variable. Sometimes, a human touch is necessary." "Still, without Nexus, we wouldn't have won this battle," Darian said as he sank wearily into a chair. "We won with so few losses because of the data and analyses it provided." Silas nodded but couldn't shake an underlying discomfort. Trusting Nexus was necessary, yes. But the desire for total control contradicted human nature. People were perfect because of their imperfections. Systems like Nexus were designed to eliminate those flaws, but one day, could this perfection lead humanity to exceed its own limits? Silas didn't want to know the answer to that question. Not long after, Nexus' voice echoed through the bridge once more, "A new threat has been detected. Enemy fleets moving in the Zeta 9 sector have been identified. Intervention is recommended." Silas stood and glanced at the data displayed on the screen. "Nexus, evaluate the strength of these fleets. The enemy forces are limited in number. The probability of success is 99.3%, Nexus responded with its usual cold, precise tone. Silas frowned. A success rate that high? The enemy attacked with a much larger force last time. Darian turned to Silas. It could just be a probing attack. We don't think the enemy has fully withdrawn, but we're not expecting a major offensive either. What if they're trying to deceive us? Silas' voice was firm. Like before, they might be using a retreat to catch us off guard. Darian was silent for a moment, then nodded. Understood, Commander. So how do we proceed? We'll follow Nexus' strategic recommendations, Silas said, but then added, however, we'll prepare a plan B, strengthen the defensive lines and have the reserve forces ready. We won't be caught off guard by any surprises from the enemy. Just then, Nexus's cold voice echoed through the room. Commander Silas, there is a new development. An analysis of the enemy forces has revealed that they are planning a larger assault on humanity. It is highly likely that a much stronger fleet is approaching. Silas froze for a moment as he stared at the screen. New signals indicated that the enemy ships were once again on the move. But this time, it was a much larger and more organized force than the previous attacks. How long until they arrive? He asked. Nexus responded calmly, based on current analysis, the enemy fleets will reach human territory within 12 hours. Preparations are advised. Darian's expression hardened. We didn't expect this. I thought the enemy wouldn't recover so quickly. Silas thought quietly. Their sudden readiness for an attack is unexpected but logical. Their strategies are evolving, just like ours. A brief silence filled the bridge. Silas took a deep breath and began giving his orders. Put all fleets on high alert. Strengthen the defense lines. Nexus, provide your recommendations for countering this new threat. Nexus's voice immediately responded. According to the analysis of enemy forces, central defense lines should be reinforced, and flank units should be positioned at strategic points. Additionally, cyber attack teams should be on standby to disrupt enemy communication networks. Silas nodded. Prepare the cyber attack teams, but we also need to bolster our physical defenses. As Darian quickly relayed the orders to the officers, the unease within Silas grew. Nexus, no matter how advanced, faced increasingly complex enemy forces. Humanity was equipping itself with more powerful artificial intelligence every day, but Silas knew that even these technologies had limits. Today, their instincts had saved them, but that might not be enough in the future. For a moment, Silas pondered, was humanity truly unstoppable when merged with technology? Or was relying so heavily on it dulling their natural instincts? Nexus appeared to be an ally to humanity, but the possibility remained that this ally could become uncontrollable. Lost in thought, Silas glanced back at Nexus's data. The enemy's movements had accelerated, and the attack was only hours away. He had to devise a plan, combining the strategies suggested by Nexus with human intuition. Relying solely on data or instincts alone would be insufficient. Both had to be utilized. Turning toward the bridge, Silas made his decision. Mobilize all fleets. Once preparations are complete, we'll proceed with the strategy Nexus proposed. But remember, things can change at any moment. Stay alert at all times. Darian nodded in agreement. Understood, Commander. Preparations are underway. After the final preparations, Silas stood in silence, reflecting. Nexus had helped them win many battles, but this was just the beginning of a dangerous dance. Silas muttered to himself, wars aren't only won on the battlefield. Sometimes, the greatest struggle is within. The sky had taken on the darkest shades of crimson, with the stars reduced to dim points of light. News of the enemy fleet's approach had spread throughout the crew. Silas stood silently on the bridge, eyes fixed on the monitors, as the ship bustled with frantic preparations. Humanity had won many battles with the help of Nexus, the most advanced AI in the galaxy. But this time, things were different. The enemies were far stronger and more organized than anyone had anticipated. Silas scanned the screen showing the massive enemy fleet. The sheer number of ships was terrifying, each one armed with heavy weaponry, ready to wipe out humanity's defenses. What's the latest on the enemy fleet, Nexus? Silas asked, his voice steady with determination. Nexus's cold, mechanical voice responded, enemy ships are moving into attack position, Commander. We need to strengthen our defense lines. The battle will begin in 10 minutes. Silas paused for a moment, taking a deep breath as he gathered his thoughts. All right. Prepare all fleets. Set up our defense lines as Nexus has predicted, but send additional assault forces to the front. They're likely to try something unexpected. We need to be ready for anything. Darian rushed onto the bridge, standing beside Silas. Commander, everything is in place. Nexus's strategy is being implemented. But, can we really handle all this firepower? Silas turned to Darian. This time, everything is different, Darian. Our preparations are complete. Now we just have to see what the battle brings us. The enemy ships advanced in perfect formation, like an army of ants, while the human fleet prepared for a counterattack. Nexus activated its cyber attack team, targeting the enemy's communication networks, causing widespread chaos. But the enemy was prepared for Nexus. Suddenly, all screens went dark, and Nexus spoke again. The enemy is attempting to breach our systems. Defenses are active, but they may not hold for long. Silas remained calm as he assessed the situation. Redirect our assault groups. The ships on the front lines should attack while the enemy is in disarray. Strengthen our defense against cyber attacks. Just then, a massive explosion flashed across the bridge's main screen. One of the human ships had taken heavy damage, its debris scattering into space. "Commander, Alpha 7 has been destroyed," a trembling officer reported. Silas's expression darkened. Every loss was a grim reminder of the battle's scale. Relay new coordinates to the remaining ships, reinforce the defensive line. Nexus, analyze the enemy fleet and find a weakness we can exploit. Nexus immediately responded, the enemy ship's power source is a central energy reactor. If we strike it, we can cripple their entire fleet. However, the attack will carry extreme risk. The ship that leads the assault will likely have to sacrifice itself. Silas nodded firmly. This is our chance. We can't win this fight unless we cripple the enemy. Assemble a volunteer crew and prepare them to move out immediately. Darian stepped forward. I volunteer, Commander. I'll gather the team and lead the attack. Silas looked at Darian. His courage and willingness to sacrifice himself embodied the spirit of humanity in this war. He paused for a moment, then took a deep breath and nodded. I'm entrusting this to you, Darian. If the attack is successful, we'll have a chance to destroy the enemy. Nexus, coordinate with Darian's strike. Darian quickly left the bridge, gathering a volunteer team for what was essentially a suicide mission. Meanwhile, Silas continued reorganizing the fleet as the enemy pressed their brutal assault. The overwhelming firepower of the enemy ships pushed the human defenses to their limits, with ships taking damage and explosions rocking the bridge. Silas noticed another large explosion on the screen, this time marking Darian's strike team approaching the enemy reactor. Darian's voice crackled through the comms, Commander, we're nearing the reactor, but their defenses are intense. We won't make it back. Silas gripped the comm tightly. Darian, this attack is for humanity's future. Your courage will save us all. Nexus, support Darian and calculate the best path for a direct strike on the reactor. Nexus's voice echoed, target locked. Countdown to attack, 5, 4, 3. Darian's ship surged toward the reactor at light speed, and at that moment, a massive explosion filled every screen on the bridge. The enemy fleet's energy source had been destroyed, and their ships began losing control, one by one. Nexus's strategy had succeeded, and Darian's sacrifice had turned the tide of the war. Silas exhaled deeply on the bridge. The enemy ships were defenseless now, and this was their chance. Order all fleets to attack. Wipe out the enemy completely. The human fleet, under Nexus's guidance, launched a devastating assault. The enemies could no longer resist and were being obliterated one by one. As Silas watched the last enemy ship explode on the screen, his thoughts turned to Darian's heroic sacrifice. The battle was over. Humanity had achieved a great victory, a triumph born of technology and sacrifice. As Silas felt the bittersweet taste of victory, Nexus's cold voice spoke once again, "The war is over, Commander. The enemy has been completely destroyed." Silas slowly sank into his chair, eyes gazing into the empty void of space. This was just one battle, Nexus. But we don't know how many more await us. No matter where technology takes us, the human spirit will always be our greatest weapon. Humanity could wield technology to its advantage, but controlling that technology would be the greatest challenge of all. And in that moment, Silas knew deep down, humanity must always be the master of technology, never its servant. Darian's heroism had proven this. Whatever the future held, Silas and humanity would be ready. Because true victory was not won by machines alone, but by the courage and heart of humankind. I hope you had a good time. If you liked my story, do not forget to comment and subscribe to my channel. Goodbye, see you in the next story.